Well-known Christian comedian Rhett from Rhett and Link sat down with Alex O'Connor, who's a well-known YouTube atheist, to talk about why he left his job and faith as a professional Christian. I like Alex. He's smart, he's intelligent, and he's non-hostile. But Rhett's reasons for leaving his faith, I've got serious questions. Now, this video is not an attack on Rhett. We are all welcome to believe what we want to believe, and that's fine. But this idea of being a professional Christian is absurd. It's like being a part-time honest person. You don't clock in and clock out of the kingdom. Either you let Christ pervade and have your whole life and be part of everything you do, or not at all. And so whenever I heard that, I was like, I got to make a video on this because, again, this is not the only person that I've heard say this who claims to deconstruct from their faith. And so since I have the opportunity, I do want to talk about some of the reasons why he deconstructed and how I wonder what guides his belief in the first place. Is it here or is it here? Let's check it out.
At some point, you go from not just Christian, but really involved, professional Christian, as you put it, to now where you are. Where does this start?
So in my early 20s, the first couple of years out of school, I'm an engineer, civil engineer. I'm still very involved in Campus Crusade at the time. I'm not having that many, existential questions about it. If anything, I'm thinking about how I'm moving towards being a professional Christian because my wife was still in college at the time.
Again, I have to stop it. He was moving into being a professional Christian. I really do want us to take a look as he talks about being a Christian in a way that he can make money off of it. Okay. This is what I hear. You can let me know what you think in the comments, but he's going to say something else here in a little bit that really makes me think about how are people actually viewing ministry? Is it a job or is it a calling? Let's keep going.
And so Link and I had we'd been best friends since first grade, 1984. So we kind of knew what we were working towards. And the idea that we were going to develop this ministry where we got to be funny and make our comedy videos. And we were really trying to find a way to do the thing that we loved for the cause that we loved.
So it sort of started as with God in the periphery here of like with all the video stuff, and it's all sort of directed towards, at least subtly to some degree, evangelism?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it was a way to have my cake and eat it too, because I really wanted, we are entertainers at heart. We wanted to be filmmakers. We wanted to make things that, had significance culturally. We wanted to do that from the very beginning. So we always had our minds of on this idea that maybe we'll kind of, we can use this ministry, or we can have a ministry where we're doing these things that we love, and then maybe something that we make will be impactful enough so that we could one day, maybe we'll move to Hollywood and make.
See right there, I have to stop it. We're going to use this ministry. You can just clip it out. We're going to use this ministry to maybe one day make it to Hollywood. Is this what we've relegated Christ to? Is this what we're doing now? Are we literally just taking the word of God and using it to make our name for ourselves? My friends, there is so much of this going on right now in our culture, from the pulpit, from YouTube, from everywhere. It is time to seek Jesus Christ. I'm going to keep playing it because I want to get into the science bit, but my goodness gracious, this is absurd to me. We need to get our heart right because right now we care more about money and making a name for ourselves than lifting up Jesus Christ, who is the Savior.
We'll have a ministry there just through the things that we create. That was sort of the thought in the early days. I wasn't like a staunch young earth creationist. I didn't think about that issue in particular. Sure. But I picked up a book from an astronomer, Hugh Ross. And I'm sure, I've mentioned this before, and he has a Christian ministry that is like very anti-evolution, but very pro old universe from the standpoint of astronomy, which, obviously when you look at all the astronomical evidence and the speed of light and the size of the universe and all this stuff, okay, the universe has been around for probably as long as the scientists are saying. But then he went on to essentially say that, but all truth is God's truth, and this is totally compatible with the Bible. But just so you know, evolution didn't happen. He was a proponent of something called progressive creationism, which essentially was, yes, the world has been around for as long as the scientists say.
Right.
And these fossils we find are legitimate fossils that are approximately the date that they're saying they are. But God was creating new batches of creatures, special creations at different stages throughout the history of the world.
Whoa.
And then ultimately resulting in the creation of people.
So why?
Great question. Great question. So I remember thinking as I'm reading this, I'm like, it's the first time I ever thought about there being some reconciliation between what we observe in science and my belief about the world. And I just remember thinking, this doesn't feel like a good explanation.
I've never heard of somebody. I mean, I'm sure I've met someone who probably like believes that the Earth is old and the universe is old, but maybe is suspicious of evolution. But specifically like, well, I'm a scientist and I'm an astronomer, and there's just no way I can look at the redshifting of the galaxies and deny that the universe is 13.8 billion years old. But that evolution stuff from that other field of biology that I've probably never really seriously studied, yeah, no, that's all BS. And instead, I mean, God is just creating animals willy-nilly.
And there's animals that are getting more and more like a person before the people.
Yeah, it's like God is just sort of doing little trial runs or something.
Right. I mean, what does that say about God is what I was thinking. But I was so sure that evolution didn't happen. I was like, when you're raised in the Christian faith and the only exposure to the idea of evolution you've ever had has come through the filter of a Christian scientist telling you why it's not legitimate. You know, somebody comes into your church and they're like the evolution expert, and they're like, they make it seem so impossible that you walk out of that with a full affirmation of the idea that evolution definitely didn't happen. And it's a horrible explanation. It will be debunked by the scientists themselves within our lifetime. Like, that's the kind of stuff that we told ourselves, right?
Right.
And we firmly believed it. But because of this proposal, this progressive creationist idea, because the age of the universe and the age of the earth, from a geological, I've always been interested in geology, but from a geological standpoint, I was like, oh, well, this is inescapable. Like, this isn't, like, the way that Answers in Genesis has framed this issue is, I mean, I'm not gonna say it's definitely disingenuous. I think they really just believe that it has to, you know, be consistent with the Bible, and so they're just willing to just completely reshape everything that they're seeing in light of that.
Yeah, so I want to say something. He said it's inescapable. I don't think so. And by the way, I don't care if it's old. Personally, I don't know. You don't either. We can believe what we want to believe. The Bible, I would say, definitely makes it. It seems like it would be young, more like 10 to 12,000 years old, something like that. But truly, the Bible doesn't give an exact time. You can debate me on this all you want, but it really doesn't. None of us actually know. No one knows how old the universe is, and no one truly knows how old the earth is. But I have read some good books myself, and one of them is called The Anthropic Principle by Barrow and Tipler. And it talks about the cosmological principle of how like if we're going to have a universe that has life, right? Like if we're going to have a universe where a person's alive, you know, conscious like I am, talking to you right now, and you're receiving this information, and you're breathing, and you have your own internal systems and organs that create this experience of you being alive. If we're going to have a universe like that is completely and utterly natural, no designer, no creator, nothing, the odds of it all aligning up are so astronomically low in the probability level that it's next to impossible. You know, the idea that we have life right now, if it was literally done without a intelligent designer at all, without a God, it would be by definition a miracle, because it would be so improbable completely. I want to read a quote from Fred Hoyle, who's an astrophysicist. He's a staunch atheist turned agnostic. So now he's even starting to change his belief. Like maybe I should go from not believing to maybe saying it's possible, at least. A common sense interpretation of the facts suggests that a super intellect has monkeyed with physics It's because when we look at the science, when we look at even the fact of mutations on natural selection. Now, I got my degree in biology, and I'm not saying I'm an expert, because I'm not, but I have read the science, and I can tell you this, that if evolution is true from a common ancestor, if it's true that we evolved from a single-cell organism over time, and it produced all the plants, animals, bacteria, every living thing that's ever existed, if it started from a common ancestor and naturally evolved, the process that we have right now, well, actually, we don't have a process anymore, because they realize that it's just not possible. I was taught Darwinian evolution with what's called natural selection on random mutation, and they're finding that the complexity to build even just a protein, let alone an entire organism, is insane. It would take forever. A 2004 study by Behe and Snoke in Protein Science estimated the time to evolve 2 binding site proteins via undirected mutation is longer than the age of the Earth. It doesn't make sense. And so that's why whenever we talk about evolution, you're always going to have the age of the Earth conversation. Because if evolution did happen, if it did occur from a common ancestor and evolve to where it is today, then we would need so much time that the universe has to be 4 billion years old. Okay, that's the first thing I want to say. I'm going to go ahead and say the next thing, and then we'll finish what he wants to say about how he told his wife, what her reaction was when he told his wife that he was deconstructing. Well, there's an argument there that the universe is old, and therefore evolution's true, and it all mixes together, and that we know that the age of the Earth is a certain age. Well, Hubble's law is what we use to determine parts of the age of the Earth, because it shows that galaxies are getting farther and farther away from each other. And so they're trying to use this data that they have to determine how much it's expanded over time, how far away the galaxies have moved apart from one another, based on the current expansion rate right here in our local galaxy. Well, what we're finding about, since we discovered dark matter, or dark energy, I should say, in 2000 or the 1990s, there is a problem. The expansion rate is not constant. We don't believe it's constant. We believe that it is speeding up in its expansion. So the assumptions we make today and judging the age of this universe may not have been true in the past. And so theoretical physicist Lee Smolin argues in Trouble with Physics that foundational cosmology relies on assumptions that may not hold across time. There is disparities in the Hubble constant values, shows that we may not understand this cosmic expansion at all. So I'm going to go ahead and finish the video, and then I'm going to talk again just quickly about evolution and about this idea of the age of the Earth and why it's not just such a cut and dry case. Okay, and again, I wouldn't care if I knew any of this information. I would still believe, because Jesus Christ is alive and he's shown himself to me in my heart and through my experience. I love him. He's changed my life, and I've seen him change other people's lives that didn't claim to be professionals at all. Let's finish this video.
And the thing that I took away from that book was that, well, evolution happened as well.
Yeah.
Jessie, my wife, who did come from like a young earth creationist background, like that's what she was taught growing up. When I came home and I was like, we need to talk about something, and I said, I am thoroughly convinced that evolution is true and that we are related to every other animal. I believe in common ancestry, and I just think that it is not just, I sort of think it's true. It's just like my reading has led me to think that if this isn't true, then I actually can't determine what anything that's true. It's so overwhelming. Because I'd read additionally to that, she just starts crying. Because this represented, she knew what this represented.
Right.
This was this seismic shift. And I think a lot of people that I tell this story to are like, what do you mean? But there's all these Christians that believe in evolution. Like, I can't believe that this was so significant for you. But I think the reason it was is because at that point, I realized how wrong I could be about something so fundamental.
Yeah.
And I never, ever considered that I might be wrong about something so fundamental. And then, not only was I wrong, But all of these Christian apologists who were so sure about their critiques of evolution, they had missed the boat so significantly on this that suddenly I was like, can I trust anything else they've got to say about this?
It's a good question.
So at some point,
So going back to this idea of evolution, one of the arguments that he actually talked about somewhere else was the fact that, we seem related to other organisms. Like take chimpanzees. This is a famous one that people use all the time. We have 98% of the same DNA. And that means that we came from a common ancestor. And I would say, no, it doesn't. It means that we came from a common designer, because even in that 2%, you're talking 35 million base pairs of differences. You're talking such crazy differences that we look and act and be and are the way we are. We're totally different. It does not necessarily mean that we evolved from a common ancestor. That's a great leap of faith. All right. Just like I have faith that we have a common creator, that God created all things, just like the Bible has always said. People like this have faith that in their atheism, they have faith in this idea that we came from some common ancestor, and that's okay. But at least I'm admitting it. I'm allowed to admit that, and I hope that other people are more honest about their lack of faith in God. Okay, so I want to give you a quote from Richard Lewontin. Okay, he's an atheist scientist. I love this. I just like it because it really, to me, helps kind of explain a little bit of why God is just not allowed in science. I mean, anything but supernatural causes. We don't have any room for intelligent design at all. It says, we take the side of science in spite of the patent absurdity of some of its constructs, because we cannot allow a divine foot in the door. We redefine what nothing is when we talk about the beginning of the universe, because we know the universe began. We come up with all kinds of explanations to explain the fine-tuning of the universe and how it absolutely appears to be designed for intelligent life. We begin to redefine morality. We begin to say that it comes from men rather than from some outside cause that we all know is true. Morality is objective. We know right from wrong. I don't care if you're atheist or not. We all know right from wrong. It doesn't matter what you believe. We know it. And so that, where does that come from? It doesn't come from men. There are so many arguments that show, like consciousness, right? Like, where does that come from? What about the idea of a soul? Most people believe in the existence of the spiritual world. You cannot explain that in science. But in science, we just brush it aside, and it blocks us from actually moving forward. And I believe kind of finding out what the truth is about this reality. It's so much more mysterious than what we've been led to believe. And that's why I'm on this quest with you. I'm glad you're here to talk about these things, to kind of get into them, be honest about it. But I'll tell you, the most absurd thing that I heard in that entire video that really upsets me is when he said that he was a professional Christian. A professional Christian. I just don't get it. I don't get it. Don't be a professional Christian. Be a child of God, born again by the Spirit, in love with Jesus. Okay, you don't act, like I said, you don't have to even know all this scientific data. Just know your Bible. It's true. Jesus rose from the dead. He's alive. So I'm going to finish with this last quote right here. In Romans chapter 1, verse 20. For it says his, but it's God's invisible attributes, namely his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly perceived ever since the creation of the world and the things that have been made. So they are without excuse. We're without excuse. God is real. He exists. And people like Rhett, I mean, I don't know what it was like growing up in the Bible Belt. I don't know what it was like being a part of Campus Crusades for Christ. But I can tell from the very beginning that him and Link, they may have not been totally genuine. He's talking about different organizations, Christian organizations, being disingenuous. But to me, that's somewhat hypocritical, because it sounds like he was getting into the ministry to use the ministry to make a name for himself, to make it to Hollywood. So I'm not saying that's the truth, but it seems that way, if I'm being honest. So let me know what you think about in the comments. Like this video if it helps. If you enjoyed the content, subscribe to Truth Be Told channel so you can come along with us on this journey of truth. I love Jesus. My name is Jeremiah. He changed my life. He does amazing work, and he's shaping hearts and transforming lives all across this region, because he's waking us up to the truth with a capital T. Jesus is the truth. Truth be told.